Hello, friends, welcome again. So, this is the session 4 in our Git videos that we are learning. In the previous session, we have talked about a scenario that you wanted to create a new project, but you start the creation from GitHub, right? Then you first created it on GitHub, then you brought it to your local by cloning it, you make changes, you committed it, and then you pushed it back to GitHub. That's what we did. Now let's see scenario 2. Scenario 2. Here, let's say you want to start the project development on your local rather than GitHub, right? You want to start the development on local. That means the first step should be creating a project on local. So let's see in this case how the entire activities would look like. Okay. So you remember I have created this lending club project 01, and we have logger.py, main.py, lib and conf. We did it in the session 2, right? That's where we created it locally. I will say open, and here I will go to desktop and I will say lending club project 1. Let me get it in my Visual Studio. Okay, I have this lending club project open, and here I have a terminal open. I will clear the screen. Okay, perfect. Now this is on our local and it's not there on GitHub. Like I will show you the GitHub. Is it there? No, it has only one repository, which is finance, right? And finance has what? Finance project has readme and transformations.py. So this is different. We do not have this particular folder or repository on GitHub, right? So that's a different scenario, right? Okay. So I'm inside this lending club project 01. Let me say PWD to see the present working directory, right? To see the present working directory. Okay. Now let's say I want to say git status. It says not a git repository. This is a clear indication that git is not managing it right now. See, when a repository is there on remote and we bring it to local, then git knows to manage it because git understand that. But in this case, when I have created something locally, then until we initialize it, it will not know that git has to manage this. And that's where the very first command you would run to make sure that git manages this particular repository is git init. That means initialize git. Git should manage it going forward, right? But before running this, I will say ls-a stands for all. You will not see something called as .git folder. You will not see .git folder because git is not managing it. If git would be managing, you would see .git folder here, right? And do not worry about .ds store. This is something related to Mac, not necessary for you to understand. rm-rf .ds underscore store. Okay. Okay, so these are the folders, but git folder is not there. How to get one? We have to initialize git here. Git init, saying git, please manage this project, right? And we have initialized this. I hope this is clear. And it says using master as the name for initial branch, this default branch is subject to change. I will tell you what it says, right? Do not worry, I'll explain this. Okay, let me clear the screen. And if I say git status, then of course it says no commits yet. Untracked files are these. That means whatever we have in this, like it's untracked right now. but Git is managing it. That's a good thing, right? So if I say ls-a, you will see a .git folder, and it maintains all the versioning metadata and all inside this particular folder. We should not be knowing what is there in the inside this folder. If you are curious, you can explore it more, right? You can go one level into it. You can say cd.git ls, and you see this. A lot of things which it internally manages, we should not be aware of. I hope this is clear. I will go one directory back. I'll go one directory back. Now this is a directory which Git is managing now. Okay. Now what I will do, when I say Git status, I see a lot of untracked files because all these are new files, right? So these are there. I will say Git add dot, because how to stage these changes so that they can be committed. You remember, committing a change is a two-step process. First you have to stage it. It should be in staging area. How to bring it to staging area? Git add dot, right? Dot is take all the files in my current working directory and put it. Now if I say git status, and you see this, that all of this have been staged, and this can be committed now by performing a commit command, right? So let me clear the screen. And how to commit? Git commit -m, adding initial set of files. All of these are committed, but are these present on the remote? Are these present on GitHub? No, it has no relation with GitHub now. It's on my local, right? Local Git. I'll clear the screen and say Git status. And you see this: on branch master, nothing to commit, working tree clean. I hope you can understand this properly, right? Okay. Now, if I have to put this content or repository on my remote, how should I do that? How should I add all whatever I have on my local, this particular folder structure and all, on the remote, that means on GitHub, so that others can also contribute to this project? How do I do that? Now, just think of it. Can I say here git push origin main? Last time we did this. Last time we did this, git push origin main. Now, that time we know that origin means from where we have cloned, right? That is the remote we are talking about. But in this case, what is origin? Who knows what is origin? Because we have not cloned this project on local from anywhere. It's not a clone project, rather, we started creating the project on local. So there is no remote. This origin is not set right now. I mean, the origin is not set right now, right? So when we clone a remote project, then origin is referring to that, right? But when we start developing on local, right? It's not that we have cloned. We directly start developing on local. Then we need to set the origin. Ourselves we have to set. So let's set the origin. To set the origin, the command would be git add. So git remote add. Remote means the GitHub part, right? So we want to add a URL now. Git remote add and origin, and we will give the URL here. We will give the URL here. So what I will do not worry, I'll explain this again. What I want to do now is, let me go to my GitHub, go to repositories, create a new repository saying, let's say, uh, lending club project. I'm giving this as a repository name, lending club project. Okay. And I will say public. This is fine. I will not add a readme. It's okay. Everything looks fine to me. I'm just creating a empty repository here. Empty repository, lending club project. And this is the HTTPS link, right? I just copied it and I will put here, right? So git remote add origin this URL. I will explain you now. So it's like we are saying instead of this big URL, we want to call it as origin. Like it's like key and this is value. Think like a key value pair, right? Origin is the key and this is the value referring to it. So when we say origin, it means this particular link, right? So we are saying now instead of this talking about this big link, I will say origin, please refer to this particular URL. And this is what we are adding, right? So git remote add origin this. Let me run this. Done, right? That means our origin is set now. How to check where origin points? Git remote hyphen v, right? I will just put this command also just to refer to it. Git remote hyphen v minus v. So it says origin points to this particular URL. I hope this is clear. This is just to verify whether my origin is now pointing to the right URL or not. Okay. Now, now let's see. Right now I have not taught you about branches, but if we say git branch, it will tell you on which branch we are. I'll explain about branches separately, but right now just understand that git branch tell us on which branch we are, and there can be multiple branches in git, right? Now it says we are currently, there is just one branch and we are on that branch. Star points to that on which we are right now, right? So we are on master branch right now. Just to let you know, earlier there were conventions where master was one of the branch and even your GitHub used to have master, right? So if I go to the earlier this thing, let's say finance project, you see here instead of master nowadays we have main branch here, main, right? Earlier it used to be master and you see here it's showing as master. Now if you try to push it, it will not happen, so you need to rename this actually to main, right? Master is not a good word, that way it looks like bossy and all, right? So that's where, to make the convention correct, now it's main, but on your local, when you are starting a new project, you will find it as master, so you need to rename this to main, because otherwise you will not be able to push it. For example, if I say git push origin main, right, it will not be able to, because it will not match, it's master branch and there is main, we want to push it to main, so better you change this to main, right? So we should rename this master branch to main branch. Let's change the name so that everything is fine. How to change? There is a command git branch hyphen m. M means modify and the name to main. So on whatever branch we are, I'll just run this command and show you. Git branch says on which branch we are. So whatever branch we are, if we want to modify that to some other branch, say git branch, modify it to main. So whatever existing branch on which we are right now, modify it to main. and this will rename this branch. And if I say git branch, it will show you that we are right now on main branch. I hope this is clear. Now, whatever command we had, git push origin main, that means origin means that URL which we have already set. We set this URL, right? And we are referring it with origin now. That means if I am saying origin, it will push it to that URL, right? Main branch of that. So let me push whatever I have to this, right? Um, and you can see this. So we can see it's pushed to main branch. So let me open this, and there are two repositories. Lending Club project is the one where I pushed just now, and you can see the entire folder structure or repository structure here. We have main, right? We have logger, we have lib folder with transformations.py, utils, all of it. I hope this is clear. Just have a look at it. It's quite straightforward that what we have done. So what I did is I created a folder structure on my local, right? I initialized Git, right? Using Git init. That means Git should track the changes, right? I added all the changes so that the changes are in staging area. I committed the changes so that the changes are fixed on my local, but these changes are not yet there on GitHub. So I basically created an empty repository in GitHub, right? And then I added the origin URL here. How I added? Using this. So that my origin refers to this, because in this case I'm not cloning anything. So origin is not set. How to see where origin points to? Git remote hyphen v. It will show where origin points to, right? And then finally, we faced another issue where the name of branch was master. Ideally, it's not a right naming convention, so we renamed it to main and then pushed it to the main branch of the newly empty repository that we created. I hope this is clear. Just have a look of what we have done here, right? And this command git push origin main I will put in the document, right? Okay. Now, if we always keep on saying git push origin main, git push origin main, there is a easy way to do that. So we can say git push hyphen u. That means set upstream, right? Origin main. If we do that, right? If we do that, then going forward, we do not have to see, once we have set this upstream, right? We can just say git push. It will automatically assume it is git push origin main. If I say git push, in your case you will not get this, so I will say always allow. Okay, in your case you will not get this, so do not worry that uh, checkbox I am getting, right? Something you will not get, it's related to my local. So if I say git push, it will assume that it is git push origin main because we have already set the upstream here, right? So it's like a shortcut. I'll just put it here. So if you always push it origin main to this whatever branch, right, you can set this upstream so that going forward you can say just say git push. Straightforward thing, right? So what two scenarios we have seen. The previous session we have seen one scenario, and second in this session we have seen another scenario. Let me reiterate very quickly. Scenario one that we have seen is it's like a workflow when starting from GitHub, that is remote, right? That means first we create a GitHub repo, right? and then we clone it to our local using the clone command. Then we make changes, whatever changes it is, adding files, removing files, changing the content, and then we put it to staging area by saying add command. We commit those changes to local, but these changes are still not there in remote, so for that we push it to remote. Now scenario 2 is where workflow when starting with git locally, right? So this is what we have seen in this session. So we create a github, no, not github repo. We create a local project structure, or we create a project structure locally. Then we uh, we track the changes using git init, saying initialize git so that git can track the changes. And then what we did, we set the URL, right, so that we can refer origin. So git remote add origin and URL, remote URL, right? And then we push the changes, push, right? So this is how both the workflows work. So you should know, right, how to whatever convenient to you, you can go with that style. But if you see ideally, this one is little bit more easier, scenario 1. But it's up to you. Scenario 2 is also quite easy. But in scenario 2, additionally, what we did, since we created a new project, the first branch that was created was master. We renamed it to main, right? We renamed it to main because of a good naming convention. And now, because in GitHub also it's not called as master, it is called as main. Earlier it was called as master, but master is not a right word to use generally. Okay, so these are the scenarios which we have seen. In our next session, I will show you more about branches, right? And with this, I think we have covered good amount of stuff. And these two scenarios are super important, because when you are creating a new project, you would most likely adopt one of these ways. And next session would be super important as well, and interesting too, because branches is like, we deal with it, we generally do not work directly with the main branch, and I will tell you the reasons for that. So with this, let me end the session, and I hope you liked it. Thanks a lot.